get your analysis now, bring in Elizabeth Sidiropoulos, who's Chief Executive of the South African Institute for International Affairs, joining me from Johannesburg. Elizabeth, good to have you on the channel. So it is done. Joe Biden finally crossing the line thanks to Pennsylvania. What does this mean for the United States over the next 4 years?
Well, I think in the first instance, particularly in the domestic environment, I think it will probably be a very difficult 4 years, not only because Joe Biden will have to deal with the pandemic, something which Donald Trump did not deal with effectively. He will also have to deal with an economy and high unemployment. But very critically, I think the results of this election highlight a country divided. So yes, he has won the majority, both of the popular votes, as well as the Electoral College. There are still a number of states outstanding, and he might very well increase that 273 to closer to 300. But it is a very divided nation. If you look at the, 70 million people voted for Donald Trump. That's much more than he got in the previous election. I think his support base will be galvanized and mobilized by the claims of illegitimacy that have been made by him and people around him. And so it's going to be very difficult, a very difficult 4 years, but a critical 4 years for the U.S. internally. It's also about strengthening democratic institutions. And then globally, I think we'll see it is already a very different world. Not only because of Donald Trump, but I think Donald Trump has played a critical role in that. Specifically, what will be interesting to watch is how the relationship with China evolves under a Biden presidency. And then lastly, just very quickly, I think the fact that it is unclear yet whether whether the Democrats have won the Senate, and they've lost a couple of votes in the seats in the House of Representatives, will also mean that government as a whole will continue to be a very difficult process with the Senate in Republican hands possibly, and the House of Representatives in Democratic hands.
And just to update you, Elizabeth, and everyone else watching, we're showing live pictures right now of what looks like a crowd of mainly young Americans, celebrations breaking out in various parts of the United States, as Simon Marks is telling us on the news that Donald Trump has tonight lost the election in the United States. He becomes the first president in more than 25 years to be booted out of the White House after serving just one term. But Elizabeth, back to you. I want to come back to the point you were making about the questions that Trump and his supporters have raised about the legitimacy of the election and the counting that we've seen in the last few days. Do you think those will have a long-term effect, a long-term stain, if you will, on the credibility of Biden's victory tonight?
Unfortunately, what we've seen in the U.S. over the last 4 years, and even under the Obama presidency, was this growing polarization. And the point that Joe Biden made about, we're opponents, we're not enemies. The way in which the narrative has evolved has been one that almost categorizes the different views that Americans hold, almost in such a confrontational way. And both Donald Trump and Joe Biden during the election spoke about, this is a fight for the soul of America. Both of them presented this as the results of the election as potentially an existential threat to either of their constituencies. And while Joe Biden has presented himself very much as a unifier, I think those underlying fissures, which have become much more extreme, I think, in the last 4 years, and with the Donald Trump, I think, who's probably not going to go away from the public sphere, and who will probably still continue to play a very influential role in the way in which the Republican Party evolves. I think they are going to still be with us, and that's going to be one of the biggest challenges that Joe Biden will face during his administration.
All right, Elizabeth Sidiropoulos, Chief Executive of the South African Institute for International Affairs.